Yeah, you're live.
Good. Yeah, hi. Apparently we're live. Welcome to... So I'm watching myself. I'm about 20 seconds ago and I'm looking pretty perplexed. Anyway, welcome to the London Buddhist Centre on Tuesday evening. My name's Nyana Daya. This month, the whole of this month, we are exploring mindfulness, basically. So we're exploring the four foundations of mindfulness. Last week, we were looking at the mindfulness of the body with Padmapalita. So if you haven't seen that, I really recommend that you do kind of go back and watch it. It's very, very, very good. I'll do a short recap, but nothing quite beats the real thing. So do go back and have a look at that. What I'll do first of all, though, is I'll just introduce you to everybody in the team who's here. Unfortunately, Maitri Vajri is not well and Mahamani has had to isolate. So that's why we've got a slightly different format tonight. So Mahamani will still be doing the talk, but from her house a bit down the road. Okay, so just let's start by having the teachers come round. So Guillaume, first of all, the famous Guillaume with new haircut. And then Padmapalita, who gave the rather wonderful talk last week on Rupa, is there. And Stiramanis, who will be giving next week's talk, is also here. So very nice to be here with them all. I was doing Qigong today just with a tripod and cameras. It's nice to have real people to kind of be with. Good, and nice to be here with you, of course. So yeah, do say hello. Actually, Mahamani, I can see Mahamani. You can't see her yet, but she will introduce herself at some point. And maybe even now, and say hello. I can
introduce myself now and just say hello. Looking forward to being with you in a little while.
Great. Okay, good. So maybe just a few minutes while we wait for a few people to arrive. Do post where you're tuning in from. Say hello, and then I'll tell us what's going to happen in the class tonight and recap last week's talk, short meditation, and so on. Yeah. I'm fine. Okay, I thought I lost myself for a minute, but I'm still here. Good. Yeah. So just waiting for a few people to arrive. Maybe we won't wait that long, and then I'll start us off for the evening. Yeah. Okay. Good. It's a slightly new technology tonight, so I'm kind of learning as we go along. I think what I'll do is I might as well just start, and so I'll just explain what's going to happen. So I'll recap last week's talk on mindfulness of the body. Then we'll have a short meditation, a short metta-bhavana meditation. So all this month we're focused on mindfulness, so it's good to balance that out with some loving kindness meditation. And then I'll pass over to Mahamani, and Mahamani will give her talk on Vedana, mindfulness of Vedana, what feelings really are, I don't think it's what feelings really are, but it's mindfulness of feelings. Short break, tea break, and she'll lead us in a meditation, and we'll finish with the Q&A. So that's the format for the evening. So in terms of what happened last week. So last week, Padmapalita started us off with mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of Rupa. And he explained that Rupa really isn't just the meat of the body. Rupa is really our whole experience. So it includes the senses, sight, sounds, etc. And he rather, well, it's a very, very wonderful talk. I really recommend you watch it. But he started us locating us in space, like in wider space, that we are located in space. And then in the course of the talk and the meditation, he gradually gathered us up. So from space into mindfulness of sounds, sounds out there, sounds nearer in, mindfulness of our clothing on the skin, of our bodies, of the sensations of the skin, of even of our bones, and then finally coming to mindfulness of the breath, which he located just behind the heart. So it was a very kind of broad sort of gathering in of mindfulness. So starting broadly, and he rather wonderfully brought us more and more and more and more in touch with our bodies, with I guess with the closer sensations of our bodies. So that was last week's talk on mindfulness of the body, and then this week Mahamani will be taking us to the next level, next foundation of mindfulness, which is mindfulness of Vedana, mindfulness of feeling. So I'm looking forward to hear what she has to say about Vedana and feeling. I'm sure it'll be very, very good and worth waiting for. But firstly, let's begin with a short metta-bhavana meditation. So exploring mindfulness is very good to also develop the heart. So we'll start with the metta-bhavana. So if you would like to set yourself up in your meditation posture or comfortably, so that you're upright and comfortable, and maybe Stimans, if you could dim the lights, we'll have a little meditation. So it'll be about 15 minutes, and then I'll hand you over to Mahamani. So don't worry if you've not done this meditation before, I'll take us through it. So we can start maybe taking a leaf out of last week's book by just being aware of the wider sounds around us. So the sounds outside the room and the sounds inside the room. We can become aware of the sensations on the skin, so of the air or of our clothes. And then becoming aware of the contact with the ground. So the felt sensation of contact with the floor and with whatever we're sitting on. And we can have a broad awareness of our bodies. Paying particular attention to the area around the heart. And to the muscles of the face, so softening the muscles around the eyes and the cheeks, the jaw, lips and tongue. And then we can begin by simply wishing ourselves well. So we can use a phrase like, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful. Or just cultivate an attitude of well-wishing and care. We can then bring to mind a good friend. So we don't have to make it complicated. We can just bring them to mind and wish them well. Sometimes just bringing our friend to mind is enough. Now bringing to mind a neutral person, so somebody we don't feel strongly about either way, but who we have fairly regular contact with, and wishing them well too. They, like us, also want to be happy and don't want to suffer. Bringing to mind an enemy or difficult person, and also extending well-wishing to them. So we can be confident that we can hold whatever animosity there is with the desire for their well-being. They, just like us, do not want to suffer. So not having to force the practice. Not having to pretend, just wishing them well. We can now bring to mind ourselves and our good friend, the neutral person and the enemy, and just try to equalize our well-wishing. Maybe we'll be happy. And then just expand that outwards. So to all beings in your area, and beyond. Good. So I hope that sets us up to be receptive to whatever Mahamani now has to tell us about Vedana. So Mahamani.
Thank you. Thank you, Yanadaya. Yeah, thank you for just leading us in that very gentle, beautiful, heart-opening meditation just then. I really appreciated that. And also thanks for the recap on Padmapalata's talk from last week. So, yeah, I'm going to talk, as Yanadaya said, I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes. So if you want to sit comfortably at home, save your meditation posture until after the break when we do some meditation, then I urge you to do that. I am certainly sitting a bit more comfortably than I'm out of my meditation posture. So as Yanadaya said at 7 o'clock, in case you missed it, if you just joined us a bit later, on Tuesday evenings this month, we're looking at the Buddhist teaching on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, which kind of form part of the Satipatthana Sutta. Last week we were looking at body, mindfulness of body or rupa. And the reason we're doing this is in order to help develop, deepen our practice and our understanding of mindfulness. So with this in mind, it's kind of quite helpful just to kind of review what are those qualities of mindfulness? What is it that we're trying to kind of open up to when we say mindfulness? Just unpack that a little bit. So when I think of mindfulness, I think of the qualities of it as being, it's receptive, isn't it? There's a kind of openness. I'm going like that because that's how it feels to me. It's just being kind of open to my experience as it is. So that requires, I don't know, this sense of curiosity about what's going on. It's quite easy if we're just kind of feeling a bit bored or dull or zoned out, then actually we don't have that curiosity that we need for mindfulness. So there's a sense of curiosity we're bringing to our experience. And there's 3 things that I think that it's not in a way, the non. So it's non-interfering, non-developmental, and non-judgmental. So in trying to be more aware of our experience, we're not trying to change it. We're not trying to change it, so we're not trying to interfere with it. We're just opening up to it. Likewise, we're not trying to get somewhere. Very often in life, I kind of feel we're all trying to get somewhere. We've got a goal. We're trying to develop something. But in a way, this kind of broad awareness, this awareness is, you can see it as being non-developmental and finally non-judgmental. We're not making judgments about what's going on in our experience. So what we're trying to build or to bring is a kindly, curious awareness to our experience in order to kind of just, well, what's happening here? What is happening here in the present moment? And we're just trying to kind of get closer to that, to the kind of bare bones of it in a way, without all the filters that kind of come in and we kind of put on top. And as I said, we began that last week by looking at the body by Rupa, both that very broad focus and then kind of really coming down to the meat of the body, as Yanadaya just said. I'm a vegetarian, I'm not sure I like that, but I get it. We are made of meat and bones. Next week, Stuart Manis will be exploring the mindfulness of the mind. So in a way, I'm kind of crossing the bridge from what we were doing last week to what's going to be happening next week. Because as Yanadaya said, their foundations, they're building on top of each other. I think Padmapalata last week used the kind of analogy of a pyramid. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not getting into metaphors. So yeah, this talk is becoming aware of feelings. That's the title of it. I think it is anyway, something like that. So awareness of feelings. And I'm going to start off with just a quote. Don't worry if you don't if you don't remember the quote, don't bother to try and write it down. That's not a problem. Sometimes I like to stick in a quote, and then I'm going to unpack that a little bit. So Robert Beatty, a meditation teacher, he defines Vedana as in the following way. So he says Vedana is translated as feeling into English, but it shouldn't be mistaken for the way we use that word in English to mean emotions. There's a clear difference there between Vedana and emotions. And he goes on to say Vedana is the conditioned, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral response that occurs with each sense contact. So whether that comes from the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the feeling body, or the mind. So from those 6 different senses. And he goes on to say, when a person isn't conscious of Vedana, then he or she is at the mercy of our prior conditioning, our habitual responses. And we can just kind of identify with these powerful experiences, maybe powerful experiences are coming up that kind of can result in action. So I'll just kind of unpick that a little bit. So we've already seen that Vedana is usually translated as feeling or feeling tone. That might be a good way of thinking about it and differentiating it from this word feeling, which we then think of as emotion. But what we know about Vedana is it can be very subtle sometimes. It can be very subtle. It kind of is very quick. It's there in an instant. And because of that, it can be quite a tricky aspect of human experience to kind of explore and be with and to kind of understand. But we can think of it in this way in which we take in experience. We take in experience. So we can think of it the way in which sights and sounds, smells, tastes, physical sensations, even thoughts and ideas get immediately filtered as pleasant, unpleasant, or neither, what we might call neutral. But perhaps a better way of looking at the neutral might be to kind of think of it as a bit dull, a bit boring, a bit uninteresting. So unlike emotions like anger, joy, or love, sadness, hatred, these feelings or Vedanas are a kind of gut level response. They're a gut level response to our contact with something. So they're not as developed as emotions. They're not as developed as emotions. And there's no judgment in them arising. I think that's really important to make that point as well. So while these Vedanas might not be as developed as emotions, they are definitely the bridge between sensations we were talking about last week and emotions. That's why it's in some ways a second foundation of mindfulness. That's why it comes in the 4 stages. So we could say that what is happening is a kind of subjective response called Vedana gets mixed into our experience. So an example of this. So we don't just see colour. We don't just see colour. We automatically see a colour we like, or we don't like, or we don't even care about it. So a colour kind of gets seen as pleasant or unpleasant, or even just important, unimportant, not important, unimportant. So for anybody who knows me, even a little bit, they probably know that blue is definitely a pleasant colour for me. It's something that I'm really drawn to. I'm really drawn to the colour blue. Well, a colour like, I was trying to think this afternoon, what colour do I dislike? And the one that kind of came to mind when I was thinking about this is a very, very kind of pale pink colour, not a vibrant pink colour, but a kind of very pale pink colour. I just kind of think, yeah, that's just yucky. I don't like that. And if I kind of see a lot of it, I kind of get quite an unpleasant kind of feeling and thoughts around it. So blue is pleasant, pale pink, unpleasant. And then the colour beige for me, it's just deeply dull. It's deeply dull. I apologise to anybody out there if I'm insulting them with their colour choices. There's no, this is just my preferences, what I feel. But yeah, I kind of find beige as a bit dull and unimportant. It can kind of get overlooked. So certainly if I'm kind of, clothes shopping, I know the rail that I'm going to go to, I know the rail I'm going to avoid, and I know the rail that just won't even get a look in. It just gets ignored from the beginning. And that process, that kind of response to colours, it kind of just happens like that, as I said. It's not necessarily something I'm kind of conscious of or thinking of very much. Or likewise, I don't know, sensations arise in my body, and I immediately label them pleasant or unpleasant. I certainly was aware when we were just doing the meditation just now, I was feeling a little bit nervous about speaking, and I could feel that unpleasant sensation in my tummy. It was just there. Kind of started to relax as we went through the meditation. That's why I appreciated it so much. But yeah, so feelings in my body can be pleasant or unpleasant. There's also neutral feelings in my body, but I probably tend to not take much notice of them because they are neutral. They don't have that much interest to me unless I'm kind of very consciously trying to be more aware of all the sensations in my body and how they feel. And as I said, this is happening all the time. It's just happening all the time. There isn't a kind of time when Vedanas aren't arising and passing away, but happening right now as we're, sitting, I'm talking, hopefully you're listening. We aren't generally aware of them because our response is kind of move to action, to move to a response, whether that's a response of body, by moving or doing something, taking some action, or of speech, or of mind, of thoughts and ideas. So, I don't know, I have a pain in my leg, you have a pain in your leg, you kind of immediately move the leg to kind of perhaps release the pain. Sound outside, maybe you live in quite a noisy area, and there are sounds that we kind of think, oh, that's really unpleasant. And we have an immediate emotional response to it. We might feel irritation, anger, frustration. We might want to go and take action by finding out what's going on and telling people to be quiet or something. I don't know. So that's happening all the time. All the time. Vedanas are just arising and passing away in response to what is happening in our experience. So what meditation, particularly mindfulness-based practices, offer us is an opportunity in a way to slow this process down so that we can start to see the process or the relationship between contact, maybe what we see or hear or smell or taste or think or feel, the feeling that arises from that, the Vedana that arises, and then our response. So we're trying to almost slow that down. And once we start to kind of notice this, we can begin to have a greater choice about how we respond to our experience. We can begin to perhaps start to change automatic or habitual responses that might have just built up over the years that we're not even aware of, that may not be helpful, So what we're trying to do in this particular foundation of mindfulness, building on our awareness of the body, both the actual physical sensations of the body, but also that kind of broad awareness of our external environment, which is then experienced through the physical sensations, is to try and stay with these Vedanas. It's first of all try to actually notice them, be aware of them, but then just try to stay with them, whether they are pleasant, unpleasant, or even neutral. And this is almost like the crux of the point of focusing on Vedanas for me. Because if we think about pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, well, in a way, we had an example of it when we're just doing the Metta Bhavana, a good friend, a neutral person, a difficult person. And it's interesting to see our responses to all three of those, isn't it? It's kind of a very good example in many ways. But if we think of pleasant Vedanas arising, it might be in response to a good friend, or it might be that we light upon something. I don't know, I walk up into the kitchen, I'm in a basement, I walk up into the kitchen and somebody has left a very tempting bar of chocolate on the kitchen table. And I kind of think, oh, I'll have a piece of that. I immediately kind of think pleasant, like chocolate, I'll have a piece of that. And then I kind of have the piece, then I want another piece. And then I kind of want another piece. And I want another piece. Soon the bar of chocolate is gone. So what I'm responding sometimes with pleasant experience is with craving, is with a kind of grabbing hold of something and wanting it, and then wanting more of it. So I get kind of caught up in the kind of subjective response of clinging and craving, which often results in the pleasant feeling disappearing after a while. If one has too much chocolate, it's certainly, you have diminishing returns on that. But also if we try and grab hold of pleasant experiences in our body, say we're meditating and there's something pleasant arriving, maybe, I don't know, there's a sense of warmth and relaxation in the stomach as we're just kind of meditating. If we kind of think, oh, I like that, grab hold of it, it's almost like we tense up slightly. And it starts to disappear. We can't hold on to pleasant experiences. And I think that's the kind of the key point I'm trying to make. Likewise with the unpleasant. Well, I think we all know what we want to do with the unpleasant things in life. We want to push them away, don't we? We don't really want to kind of deal with them, whether they're feelings, emotions, thoughts, physical sensations, sights, sounds, so forth. We want to kind of push them away. And I can feel myself doing that. And I can feel myself resisting what is actually happening. And again, as soon as I start to do that, I often get a kind of pain in my shoulder. And when I'm meditating, I can feel it quite strongly. And I can feel myself the times when I don't want to be with it. I just almost kind of contract. I contract. And as soon as I contract, it becomes much more painful. It's much more present. But if I can start to soften into it, to relax a little bit, then actually I can start to see it as a moment by moment thing. It might still be painful, it might be unpleasant, but I'm not adding to that experience. I'm not adding to it. And then finally, there's the neutral. I think much of our life is probably fairly neutral. There's a lot of people in our life who fit into the neutral category. We have neither strong feelings of like or dislike for them. Likewise, if we kind of think about it even just at a kind of bodily level, there's certain parts of our body that perhaps very rarely get much of a look in. We tend to focus on what is pleasant or unpleasant, either grabbing or pushing away, and ignore the neutral. And I was thinking this afternoon, what are the neutral parts of my body that I tend to kind of not take much notice of? And I realised that very much when I'm doing a body awareness, and it's probably even when I'm leading body awareness, kind of pay quite a lot of attention to the shoulders, relaxing them, softening them. Then it's like, oh, and there are the arms, and down to the hands, because the hands have got lots of sensations. I like the hands. So I can tend to kind of ignore my arms a little bit. But if I really bring a sense of awareness to them, then I can start to feel how alive they actually are. There's lots of sensation going on there, which I can normally just zone out of through thinking, oh, that's just a bit of a dull part of the body and not going there. And we do that with much of our experience in life as well. You know, feel a bit bored by this. I'll go and find something that will give me pleasure. Maybe the chocolate in the kitchen or whatever it is we turn to for our pleasure. So what we're trying to do when we are meditating, or even outside of meditation, is start to pay greater attention to these feelings, these Vedanas. So we're trying to simply notice their arising, their passing away, without kind of clinging to them if they're pleasant, pushing them away if they're unpleasant, or ignoring them if they're fairly neutral or boring, and going off and trying to find something more pleasant. And in doing that, if we can kind of just get a little bit closer to those Vedanas without trying to kind of do anything, without having a response, then we start to be just a little bit more in tune with reality. We start to be calmer because we're not always trying to kind of alter what's happening. We start to be less reactive to the world around us. So that's all I'm going to say about Vedana. So what we'll do now is we'll take a very quick 5-minute leg stretch, perhaps get a cup of tea. If you can drink a cup of tea in 5 minutes, I can't. Have a glass of water. I'm going to have a glass of water. And then when we come back, we're settled down, and I'll lead us in a meditation on Vedana. So yeah, let's have just a little bit after, so about 47 minutes to 47, 48 minutes to we'll come back. Okay. Can't hear you.
Really?
I couldn't hear you. You were muted.
Okay, so do you want to unmute me briefly?
You are.
Okay, because I'm unmuted so that I can pass over to Mahamani. Thank you for that lovely talk, actually. Very, very clear talk. I'll say more later, but I thought it was wonderful. I'm looking forward to your meditation. So
You need to mute yourself. Okay, so thank you, Yanadaya. I hope you're all back. It's a very different medium, this, isn't it? So yeah, welcome back. And yeah, we're going to just follow on from some of the ideas that I was just exploring in that talk around Vedana. So these feelings, this feeling tone in our sensations, and the feeling tones of pleasant and unpleasant and neutral. So I'm going to lead us through that, a guided meditation, and we'll have an opportunity to look at the unpleasant, the pleasant, the neutral. And then afterwards there'd be a chance, there should be some time left to for some questions, so if anything comes up from that. But for now, just invite you to settle into your meditation posture. So just making sure you're comfortable. I'm going to sit for about 25 minutes, I think. So just making sure you've got everything you need. You're in a posture that is supportive, that is part of your practice. And then what I find really useful is closing your eyes and committing to your meditation posture. Stillness really helps with our mindfulness practice. Helps to calm the body and calm the mind. So let's just begin again by having a very broad awareness of the space around us. So the space that you're in, the room that you're in. And also beyond the room. So maybe there's sounds you can hear outside or in other rooms. Just part of your experience. You don't have to strain to hear them. They're just there. Becoming aware of the temperature of the room. Maybe the room is warm or cool. Just noting all those things at the moment. And just coming a little bit closer into the body, the surface of the body. So the contact of your clothing, of your skin. Maybe the air, your hands or feet, or face, or head. And becoming aware of the contact that your body has with the ground beneath you, with the earth. It might be your feet, legs. If you're lying down, it'll be more of your body. So just opening up to that sense of connection, sense of letting go into it. the body relaxing, calming. And just becoming aware, the body breathing itself. Don't need to do anything for the body to breathe. It's just doing it all by itself. I'm just trying to bring a gentle, kindly, curious awareness to that process. Just aware of all the subtle movements of the body as the body breathes in and out. Just opening up to that a little bit more with each breath. Becoming aware of the breath in the front of the body, chest, diaphragm inside, the lower tummy, the sides of the body, and the back. Coming inside the body, deep inside. Nowhere else to go, just being with your experience. As the body breathes in and out. I just want you to start to become aware of all the sensations in the body, all the different sensations that are arising in the body. We can take this broad awareness of the body, so there's the kind of actual physicality of the body, but also the stimulus from our physical senses, maybe sounds, sense of space. Maybe there's smell, you're burning perhaps incense. So just starting to notice these sensations. Some of them might be quite subtle, tingling in a hand, slight discomfort in a knee. Whole areas of the body that just feel a little numb. So there's just the arising of pleasant sensations, the arising of unpleasant, the arising of neutral sensations. They're all just there. Maybe we see our tendency already to just want to maybe go towards the pleasant, dismiss the neutral. Let's just get space for all of them. Likewise, you might find your mind thinking lots of thoughts, ideas. Well, some of them will be pleasant, unpleasant. Some of them just neutral. You can just note that and let them go. Just bringing a curiosity to our experience right now. Now, what I want you to do is to turn to sensations that feel unpleasant. So you might even just notice your response when I said turn towards feelings that are unpleasant. Maybe there was a, I don't want to do that. But just see if you can gently bring your awareness to these sensations, whether within the body or in your environment, that feel unpleasant. Maybe there's a subtle level, or it might be more gross, it might be very definite. But just see if you can open up to those unpleasant sensations. It'll just be a slight discomfort. Just seeing what your response is. What do you want to do? What's your habitual response to something that's unpleasant? You can just note maybe what we want to do. And see if we can let that go. Just bring our awareness, our kindly, curious awareness to the unpleasant sensations that are arising. Just open to what we actually notice when we do this, without layering it, without giving it filters or stories. What we're trying to do is just get closer and closer to that experience, to that sensation. Not judging it, not pushing it away. If at any time it starts to feel overwhelming, you can just broaden your awareness. So it's just one of many sensations. Just sit for just a little bit. Just opening up to unpleasant Vedanas. They arise, perhaps pass away. And broadening your awareness out again to take in the whole of the body. connection with the earth, body breathing. Next, just bringing to mind, when you're ready, pleasant sensations, becoming aware of bringing your awareness to them. Pleasant sensations, again, either in that broad awareness of the body, which takes in the space around you, as well as the physical experience of the body, maybe even pleasant thoughts that are arising. And again, these pleasant sensations, they might be quite subtle. So it might be the sense of your shoulders just relaxing, the warmth in your hands, sense of the body relaxing and letting go of any tension. Again, we're just trying to be with these sensations, maybe one sensation or many. Just trying to be with these sensations without trying to grab hold of them, to make more of them, to make them bigger, to make them last. Just watching them arise, pass away. You might just want to notice what happens when you're just being with the pleasant sensations, without trying to do anything with them. What does that feel like? Now, just invite you to broaden your awareness out again, throughout the body, connection with the ground, the space around you. The breath. Then I want you to see if you can bring your awareness to those neutral sensations. Maybe there's a part of your body, there's not much feeling there at all. Might feel a bit dull or boring, even a bit numb. So as I said, for me, that's my arms. And maybe you have a particular part of the body that can kind of get overlooked. Maybe there's a particular part of the body right now. Just bringing your awareness to that part of the body. So I'm not trying to force anything here, just seeing if we can wake up to what is actually going on there. So we might notice the tendency to want to kind of move on, to zone out. And just encourage you to stay with that neutral part of the body. See what happens. Maybe there's a kind of gentle awakening to a sense of aliveness in that part of the body. So I bring my awareness more and more fully to my arms. I can feel a sense of tingling. Now, as we move into the last part of the meditation, just invite you to open up again, broadening your awareness out to the whole of your body. The space you're in. Just seeing if you can open up to all the sensations that are just arising and passing away. Some pleasant, some unpleasant, some just neutral. Can we be with all of them? Without trying to filter our experience, without focusing on perhaps the pleasant instead of the unpleasant, or even vice versa. Just being with it all. Just spend a couple of minutes Just sitting with this broad awareness. Things passing, rising and passing away. Sensations, whatever their feeling tone, all welcome. So when you're ready, just opening your eyes, having a little stretch of the body if you need to, bringing some movement, some life into the body, and sitting comfortably, sitting comfortably. So I think in a moment, we're going to move into a bit of a question and answer session. There might be some questions that have arisen from what I was saying or from doing the meditation. And I think that Yanadaya will probably unmute himself in a moment. And he might kind of field those questions to me. I think that's the arrangement, because I haven't got them. I haven't got access to them.
Yeah, that is the arrangement. So yeah, firstly, what a lovely meditation that was. I could have stayed meditating for quite a while longer. I guess there'll be a little delay before questions come through. So a few things that struck me in the meditation and also about the talk. One was that I definitely had a very strong no response to exploring my unpleasant Vedana.
Yes.
So I don't know whether that's a shared experience. I really didn't want to go there. Although most of my Vedana was unpleasant, I think, but in quite a pleasant way, strangely. So that's a comment more than a question. But I don't know. Do you have anything to say about that, or Mahamani?
I think it's the kind of strong no. I think is really a human response, isn't it? It's such a kind of like, why would I want to look at that? You know, and why are you starting with the unpleasant anyway? Can't we start with the pleasant sort of thing? So I really understand that. And I started with the unpleasant quite deliberately, because I think that we need to be able to bring that experience in. And I thought if we'd done the pleasant first of all, it'd be a bit like, no, I'm not going there. I'm not going there, thank you very much. But yeah, I can feel that, you know. I think when I have a strong unpleasant Vedana, my response is, I know that if I turn towards it, it helps. It really helps to kind of decrease it. But sometimes it can be a real struggle. It can be a real struggle. That's the practice of it, isn't it? To kind of just gently turn towards it and keep trying to come back even when our mind is resisting. Because there can be, I don't know if when you managed to actually do that, did you find there was a slight kind of relaxation or not?
No, I just didn't do it.
Diet, that doesn't help.
I think I just stayed with, yeah. But I think in a way I did, because my Vedana wasn't. It was a kind of mixture of pleasant and unpleasant, I think. So
Yeah,
which
often is the case.
Good. I see. Oh yeah. All right. So Nina's just saying she found it very, very helpful. Before, I think it looks like questions might be coming in, but I was also very struck in your talk about how powerful unconscious Vedanas are. I was very, very. It really made me reflect about how much my life is determined by these feelings, and before I know it, I'm in a certain situation. So again, it's not particularly a question, but I was very much struck with that, and also the connection between Vedana, and you drew out the connection between Vedana and craving as well.
Yeah. And I think that's the whole thing, isn't it? That they can be so unconscious, but we're reacting to them. We're taking some kind of action from those unconscious Vedanas because they happen so quickly, so instantaneous. And then we're off along down a path, aren't we? Whether that's a story in our mind, around something that's unpleasant. I've got pain in my shoulder. Oh, what's that? It's always going to be there. Perhaps it's something really serious, and we're off, kind of adding to it, or in situations with other people. So I think that what we're trying to do in meditation is just really just come into, just become a little bit more aware. And it takes time and practice, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. Lots of practice.
Lots of practice.
Lots of practice, and yes, yeah, and then sort of suggesting ways of working with developing more awareness around the arising of Vedana, like maybe in everyday life, like do you have sort of thoughts about that?
Yes, I think that the more that we can do, I think it goes back to that first stage of mindfulness for me that we were talking about last week, and the link between the two. So the more I feel embodied in my experience, as I move through my life, the more I can just kind of clock more my reactions at a kind of quite a physical level. And I feel then that if I'm kind of aware of that, if I am aware of that, those moments when I notice what my habitual response is. I'll give an example perhaps in a moment. I notice what my habitual response is, and then I kind of think, oh, there's a bit of a gap for a moment, isn't there? I've got a choice. I've got a choice to kind of deepen the groove of my habitual response, or to actually kind of perhaps offer a more creative way of being. And the example I was kind of thinking of is, I mean, I live in a community. I love the women I live with in my community. But obviously in kind of community living, we can kind of, the kitchen can be a wonderful place, can't it, for spotting our unpleasant and pleasant Vedanas. And, maybe somebody's left the kitchen in a way that I don't think they should have left the kitchen. It doesn't happen actually that often in our community, I might say, but on the rare occasions it happens. I can kind of, if I'm mindful enough, I can clock the physical, the emotional, the thoughts, the unpleasantness around them, and think, oh, is this how I want to be? Do I actually then want to respond by being a bit huffy and tidying the kitchen up in a huff or something like that? And I realise occasionally I can just let that go and come from a much more creative, much more generous, much more kind response. So I think we can work with it. You're looking down, Yanadai.
I'm looking down because I'm trying to track the questions as they come through. So I've got a question for you.
Okay.
From Mitch Walpole saying, are unpleasant feelings trapped emotions? So are unpleasant feelings trapped emotions?
Trapped emotions. Well, they could be, couldn't they? They could actually be trapped emotions, or they could be emotions. Some of our, as I said, we can have some very unpleasant Vedanas that arise from emotions. If I feel angry, I can feel quite a lot of unpleasant Vedana in my body, in my mind, in my whole kind of being. Doesn't often feel trapped. It feels quite uncontained in certain circumstances. But I think maybe if you're talking, maybe, is it Mitch, did you say?
Mm.
Maybe Mitch is talking about physical sensations, physical pain. And I think certainly, if we are looking at it from that perspective, I think that unpleasant Vedanas can on occasions be kind of perhaps trapped emotions. I was talking about my shoulders earlier on, that can be quite unpainful. And I certainly know that if I'm feeling tense, then that's a particular set of emotions that go along with that. And I can start, by the end of the day, my shoulders are really, really aching. So I think there is something around that. But I think the key point is it's not about judgment. We're not making judgment around these things. But it might also just be our conditioned, our learned responses. I was being a bit frivolous earlier on talking about pale pink. But actually, I really don't like that colour. And I don't like that colour because it comes from a kind of childhood where I felt I was being made to be a particular kind of little girl in pretty little dresses, and I couldn't go climbing up the trees, with my brothers in those little delicate pink dresses. So I have a kind of particular response to it. So it's often conditioned, it's habitual. So it comes from past experience.
Thank you, Mahamani. Jane's, it's not exactly a question, but she's saying, is it just about being aware of unpleasant feelings? Is that enough just to be to bring awareness to unpleasant feelings?
I think it's a starting point. I think it's a real starting point. And this is what this kind of foundation, this second foundation of mindfulness, this awareness of feelings, is helping us to learn to become more aware with them, and to kind of perhaps, can we just be with them without adding on the layer of stories, emotions, thoughts, ideas, and so forth. Kind of suspect Stuart Manis might be kind of talking a bit more about mindfulness of the mind next week. So in some ways we've kind of separated these out. But I think a real starting point is, can we just be aware of them, and just kind of almost get closer and closer to them without that resistance, without the no, as you said earlier, Yanadaya, and see what happens to them when we're not resisting.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I can't see any more questions coming in. So maybe I'll just sort of wrap it up a little bit and say, firstly, thank you so much, Mahamani, I thought it was a very wonderfully clear talk, very clear in fact, and lucid talk, and then a beautiful meditation, I think, guiding us through Vedana. And it's definitely made me reflect more on the importance of being aware of Vedana, being aware of feelings as they arise, because not being aware of them, it leads to very, very habitual responses, doesn't it? That aren't creative, as you say, and sometimes it's very hard not to be aware of them or not to behave in that way. But the more awareness I can bring to Vedana, say maybe we can all try and be more aware of Vedana this week, and see what difference that's made. Just as being aware of Rupa last week certainly made a difference to my life this week, just to continue to be aware of Rupa, to be aware of body and sensations, but also bring to mind our responses of pleasure or pain or displeasure, and then what do we do with those? Can we do something creative rather than do something habitually? I'm thinking about, I guess, relationships that I'm in that respond habitually, and then it's pretty bad news. So just to be kind of bring awareness of Vedana to our week ahead. Final very, very big thank you to Mahamani.
Oh,
And then say, yeah.
I've really enjoyed it. Really
Great, yeah. I think we enjoyed it too, Mahamani. Thank you. And just to remind you, next week it'll be Stiramanis, talking about awareness of mindfulness of the mind. So I'm really looking forward to my friend Stiramanis talking about the mind. He's very freshly ordained Stiramanis, and he has a particularly clear mind. I work with him, and I'm constantly struck by the clarity of his thinking and the clarity of his mind. So I'm looking forward to that next week. And then just finally to finish, as usual, by saying that we really appreciate all of the support that so many of you have given to the London Buddhist Centre. In the last few months, you've really helped us to stay not only afloat, but also healthy. In the next few months, our situation is a bit more difficult. We're losing government support, so we're standing to kind of make a loss of about £10,000 a month. So we'd really appreciate it if you could continue to support us, to continue to support the work that we do. We really appreciate it. I know a lot of people also do appreciate it as well. So yeah, you can just click on the link that Guillaume's posted and donate. You know, if you wish. It's a kind of it's a begging bowl. We'll take whatever we get given, but we'd really appreciate it if you can continue to support us as generously as you have been doing so. So that is the little appeal for funds, and yeah, just finally to wish you well for a good week ahead. There's lots more coming on at the London Buddhist Centre, and just to keep practicing mindfulness this week, to urge you to keep practicing mindfulness of the body, keep practicing now mindfulness of Vedana, mindfulness of the arisen feelings of pleasure, pain, or the very interesting feelings of neutral indifference. Okay, from us all here in the shrine room, from Padmapalita, from Guillaume, from Stiramanis, from Mahamani, and from Maitri Vajri, who's not very well, from her bed probably. Yeah, very good night, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully next week.